In this morning's Family First, we're talking, as we often do, about a big challenge for parents.
Yeah, that challenge, monitoring your kids' screen time. So we're turning things over to Matt Scott. He has a lot more on this than I think all of us parents. It's safe to say all of us parents have been dealing with this.
Especially since the rules have, changed.
Yes.
In the last year and a half for a couple of reasons. Let's face it, parents, good luck keeping your kids off of anything digital this summer, and especially after a year of being just on digital. You know that's a trouble. Their phones or Xboxes, even the TV, you know, anytime they're bored, they're going to turn to the tried and true electronic distraction. But is that a bad thing? The man with their answers is our friend Dr. Rob Keder from Connecticut Children's Medical Center. We come to him for advice. Hello there, Dr. Rob. Nice to see you.
Hi, good morning, Matt.
Is this really a bad thing? Let's be honest.
Well, I mean, media is definitely here to stay, so it's not a question of is media good or bad. It really depends on the quality and quantity of media that you're using. Not all media is created equal.
Well, let's be honest. COVID kind of changed everything. So do we look at, say, back in March of last year is when this became a problem, or obviously was this already, an issue?
So, I mean, the old recommendations would be like a hard no more than 2 hours a day, but we've learned so much more based on research and what kids are doing with their media time. What's really important is still making sure that kids can get an hour of exercise a day, that they're still getting the right amount of sleep, and that screen time isn't cutting into other daily activities, including like social time and hanging out with friends.
Right. We'll get to what we're calling the play diet in just a second. But obviously, the time amount varies for different age groups. You just said it an hour a moment ago, but how do we adjust it as the kids are getting older?
Well, I think that we always want to come up with an individual plan for each child. If you have a child who's an artist and they're using time on their iPad to make music or draw, that shouldn't count towards their screen time total because that's them being productive and using it. Mm-hmm. What we also want to do is make sure that kids aren't multitasking, which is much easier said than done, right? But how often do we see kids pulling up their phone while they're attempting to watch TV, while they're attempting to listen to music?
Which, believe it or not, is exactly what I try to do as a parent. When we have a discussion about something that's interesting, I go, well, look it up. I don't have the answers for everything, so let's talk about it. Grab your phone, let's find an answer. Let's talk about something called the play diet. And I found this interesting because it is, as you said, a mixture of digital play and social play and active play and even free play. Tell us about that.
Well, I mean, play is how kids learn. So play is important, especially for young children. Play is a process of experimenting, trying, and seeing what works and what doesn't work, even when you do that in creative play. So I think it's really important that all kids have access to variety. Mm-hmm. You can watch some screen time, and if it's all YouTube videos all day, that might be different than watching a little bit of a documentary on the Disney Channel or Nature Channel, watching a film and then going up and reading about it because you wanted to learn about the pyramids or some other ancient culture.
Having that discussion like we were talking about. Is there a moment when we should be taking the electronics away from the kids?
We should definitely take electronics away from kids if it really is cutting into other things. So if it's getting in the way of chores, if it's getting in the way of sleep. We also don't want electronics to be the go-to for learning how to emotionally self-regulate. So if you're having a child who tantrums because they're going through kind of like withdrawal, or they just really want the television or screen time too much, then we have to reconsider and maybe plan some off-screen time.
And remember, there are no two similar cases. The family is a family, but what the kid down the street is doing is not always good for what's going on in your house. Dr. Rob Keder, always with good stuff. Thanks for joining us early this morning on Family First.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. And I tell you what, this is something that every parent has to deal with. We'll be talking about it again in the 8 o'clock hour. But right now, let's get back to Tim and Erica.